I have been absolutely consumed by the Matthew Nicol murder and the killing of his beloved and faithful dog Mako by 6 individuals from Brevard. And I've gone over the rules, um, and I've tried to explain to it, but I just want to show you um, the legal standings, how it's understood from something much smarter than myself, and I'll gladly say it. This is ChatGPT 3.5, and for those of you that don't know, it's an artificially intelligent chatbot that you ask it questions, and it can grab from multiple sources. It can interpret those ideas and concepts and spit it out into an easy to understand format. And so here you go. Here's some of the questions that I asked. Um, what are they? What could they? I asked it about the scenario of people going to murder somebody in a home invasion robbery. And so, if 6 individuals go to a home and invade and rob a house where a person in the house is murdered, accidentally or not, what charge would they face? And they would obviously face first-degree murder, and it specifically says if a murder occurs during the commission of a felony such as burglary, which includes home invasion, all individuals in the home invasion could be potentially charged with first-degree murder under the felony murder rule in Florida. And it just goes on to say accidental or not murder, they could be, charged with it. It doesn't matter. But so, and they asked if one guy's parked down the street. It said that all the things he could be charged with. Individual does not may still face charges, but if you're somebody parked down the street, the felony to be charged, they could be charged as principals in the first degrees. Anyway, they could face felony murder. That would be Tyler graphing. And so this is in the same scenario. Should all individuals except the shooter be charged with second-degree murder? And it says it depends on their level of involvement and intent. I didn't go into specific where everybody went, and they said, while it's possible some individuals involved in home invasion could be charged with second-degree murder, it's not necessarily a blanket rule that all individuals accept it's not necessarily a blanket rule that all individuals except the shooter be charged with second-degree murder. The specific charges each individual would face depend on various factors, including crime, intent, their actions leading up to and during the crime. And here are a few potential scenarios for the charges. They get first, second degree, accessory, and other charges, because I didn't go into specifics. And so then I asked this one in the same scenario. One of the individuals went to trial, ended in a mistrial. I'm talking about Anthony Davila, where he got a mistrial with a hung juror, where some of the jurors said, oh, it should be second degree, and others saying it's first degree. And I said, how can I explain why first degree murder charges are the correct charge? And so here's several key points you could use to argue why first degree murder charges are warranted. And it's the felony murder rule. And it says right here, under Florida law, in many jurisdictions, the felony murder rule allows for all individuals to be charged with first degree murder if the death occurs during the commission of certain felonies, such as burglary, regardless whether they were the actual perpetrator of the murder. In this case, if the murder occurs during the commission of the home invasion robbery, all individuals involved could potentially be charged with first-degree murder under the felony murder rule. Premeditation. And here's the key one that the people seem to say, oh, well, they didn't plan to kill him. Well, it's a little bit different what you might think. Premeditation. First-degree murder typically involves premeditation, which means that the perpetrator has specific intent to kill and plan the murder in advance. And then it says, however, in the context of the felony murder rule, premeditation is not required. Instead, the focus on the underlying felony and the death that occurs during its commission. Therefore, even if the individual did not personally fire the gun, if they were involved in planning or carrying out the home invasion robbery, they still could be charged with first-degree murder under the felony murder rule. And we also know that another reason why is this why they should all be charged with it. This was a joint enterprise. The theory of the joint enterprise or joint participation. This means that even if the individual does not personally commit the murder, they still could be held responsible if it was committed by one of their co-conspirators in the furtherance of the common criminal purpose. So in other words, you're guilty by association. This depraved indifference, individuals can still be charged with first degree murder if they acted with a depraved indifference to human life. This means they engaged in conduct that was imminently dangerous to others and demonstrated callous disregard for the value of human life. In the context of home invasion, where a murder occurs, participating in such dangerous and reckless activity could support a charge of first-degree murder. And so we have that. These are all the reasons. But, you know, they should have known about it beforehand that was a potential. So I asked it because they used the word foreseeable. So I'm going to go on with this foreseeability because it was in one of the laws, the reasonings up there. So in other words, did they think it was possible that this could have happened, that somebody was going to die? And absolutely. Was it butter knives and pepper ball guns? Again, I'm going to hit you over the head with that because it's important to know that they specifically used, they planned this out. They rented the van. They got the outfits with the insignias of the Sheriff's Department or DEA, whatever. They went with bulletproof vests. They had masks over their face. They had bulletproof helmets. Then they had the high-capacity firearms. Then they planned what to do. We know the fact that Tony Davila had sent Tyler Graffing over there to draw a map of the house. We know that Tony Davila was the one that was on Snapchat following Matt, knowing that he had his dog Mako. All of this, what does this mean? It's all a foreseeable risk. And so it says right here, foreseeability is crucial as a crucial concept in criminal law, especially in cases involving felony murder charges. Right there. Foreseeability refers to the ability to reasonably anticipate or predict the consequences of one's actions or the actions of others in a given situation. In the context of a felony murder, foreseeability plays a significant role in determining whether individuals can be held criminally responsible for a death that occurs during the commission of a felony, even if they did not directly cause the death. You know, how does that pertain to this? Well, the knowledge of the risk, by what they wore. Now we're going to talk about, not about getting caught, but what risks did they know? Well, we know that they had bulletproof jackets, bulletproof helmets. They went with high-capacity magazines, but, you know, they sent somebody in with the suppressor too. That was Brian Vogel. Brian Vogel had that suppressor to take out Mako. And you think about this. Brian Vogel shot and killed Matthew's beloved dog Mako with the suppressor so nobody would hear it. But did he know where that bullet was going to go? What if that bullet ricocheted and killed somebody inside the house? Did he know about that risk? I don't think he really cared about it. And so maybe not a knowledge of the risk, but the others did because they were going in with real live ammo, real bullets that are used for war, for killing people. And it was a conscious risk taking. Everybody disregarded known risks or acted in a manner that showed reckless indifference to the potential consequences of their actions. And everybody involved were aware of the risks involved in breaking into a home and committing a robbery, yet they proceeded with their plans despite these risks. Connections to the crime. It establishes a link between the underlying felony and the resulting death. If the death was a foreseeable consequence of the felony being committed, then the individuals can be held responsible for murder under the felony murder rule. In this case, the death of a person during the course of the home invasion robbery. And of course, then that's a big one. And then there's the collective responsibility. In other words, you're guilty by association. And specifically, the felony murder rule enumerates a list of certain violent felonies. You commit those, somebody dies, you're accountable for them, including first-degree murder, because that's what they say. The charge is for first-degree murder, not second-degree murder. First-degree murder during one of those felony murders, if somebody is killed, intended or not. And then I asked it about, can you explain intent and premeditation? Well, intent refers that you knew it was going to happen, that virtually certain to result in death. I don't think they expressly, this occurs when a person intends to cause the death, but an implied intent. An implied intent, and this occurs when a person's actions demonstrate a clear disregard for human life, even if they do not expressly state their intent to kill. For example, shooting into a crowded room with no regard for who may be hit demonstrates implied intent to kill. Premeditation, well, premeditation refers to the deliberate planning and consideration of a criminal act before it is committed. It involves a conscious decision to kill or cause harm to another person and requires a period of time for reflection and planning. And now all that reflection and planning go on about that. So, all of these, they can be held for first-degree murder because of the felony murder rule. Premeditation with an implied intent. A joint enterprise, they all were going to profit. That means even if you didn't commit the crime using the felony murder rule, that they're going to be held accountable for it. This depraved indifference doesn't matter. Guilty by association. And they knew about the risk. They were conscious of the risk taking. They had connections to the crime because the underlying felony, which was the home invasion robbery, resulted in the death. And it's a collective responsibility. And we can do that. That's the intent part because of Florida's principle in the crime. And so basically it's being a principle in the crime and Florida's, Florida's felony murder rule. Those are the two rules for the felony murder rule and in Florida, the law regarding being a principal in a crime is out in Florida's statute section 777.011. That is what is going to bury all of them. I just hope that the prosecutor can do a much better job than I did in this silly video. I hope they all go to jail and are never heard again from anybody. I hope they all get life in prison because I think that's only fair. And I want everybody to know this too. If you think about this, what did they do? Did they go and try and rob a drug dealer or his roommate? Whether it was Matthew or the roommate, it doesn't matter. Somebody died, was murdered in the commission of this felony, and his beloved dog. But let's face facts. What they did is they robbed somebody that couldn't go to the police. That was their intent. Now, I would equate that to somebody that can't go to the police. Now, who could that be? That could be somebody like a migrant worker here illegally. That could be somebody in a scenario that wouldn't want to go to the police for whatever reasons. They tried to rob that person. It's some people say it's a victimless crime. Well, no, it's not a victimless crime because a life was taken. His beloved dog was also killed. And so I don't care what Matthew Nicol was accused of doing prior to his murder because he did not have his day in court. And that was all taken from him because of these 6 individuals. 2 of them have already been sentenced. The remaining 4 all need to be charged with first-degree murder using Florida's felony murder law, or the first-degree murder law, and because of the principle. What is a principle? In other words, if the state of Florida was handing out participation trophies, well, guess what? Equipment managers and cheerleaders, they could be charged with it as well. Let's face facts. I'm going to say it again. They didn't go there with
butter knives and pepper ball guns. They went there in a premeditated plan that took months to put together. They rented the van. They got outfits to make them look like law enforcement. They wore bulletproof vests. They covered their face. They had a bulletproof helmet. They went with high capacity magazine automatic weapons or semi-automatic weapons. Doesn't matter. AR-15 and 9mm. They were shooting real bullets that murdered Matthew Nicol and murdered Matthew's beloved dog, Mako. And one of them, for the element of surprise, used a suppressor. And they shot and murdered Matthew's dog, Mako. And everybody that set foot or involved in this plan knew about it from the get-go, from day one, what was going to happen. And in closing, I'd just like to say I can't make this any more heartfelt, but these 4 remaining perpetrators need to be charged with first-degree murder. Thank you.